there was a time when you might not mix any political conversation with our coverage of a storm. I mean, I think that time as recently as a year or two ago, right? Because storms weren't political. The person who made them political is Donald Trump. The person who told people, well, first he took a Sharpie and he changed
the trajectory.
But that was when he was president. Now as a candidate running to be the president of all Americans, he's saying and doing things that makes the work of FEMA more difficult, that makes the warnings of local mayors less trustworthy than they might need to be for a family to make the incredibly difficult decision to pack up their belongings and drive to safety.
So when individuals like me and others say that Donald Trump is dangerous to democracy and dangerous to the process of government, this is what we're talking about. You're putting lives at stake because you want it to be about you and you want to find and gain some political advantage over your opponent in a presidential race, to demonize their efforts, to have surrogates stupidly not engage with the administration, like the governor of Florida, who's now faced with one of the most horrific events to hit his state. And he's like, I don't want to talk to Kamala Harris because it's political. That's the level of bad government, bad governing that Americans have grown cynical about, and why we find ourselves in this very stressful moment. So if Donald Trump is telling you that there are no people on the ground, but then you look around and you see people on the ground, how are people even confused about that? And so the reality is he doesn't make it better, he's making it worse. He's making it more difficult to get the resources in and for people to save their lives and the lives of the ones they love. Do not listen. I'm just going to look straight at Americans. Do not listen to Donald Trump about this storm in Florida or in the Gulf or anywhere else. You pay attention to the people who are there to protect you from the Department of Energy, Health, wherever department it is that's involved in your community, FEMA. Listen to the officials who are actually watching the storms and know what the patterns are telling them that they need to share with you to save your life. Donald Trump took a Sharpie and drew on the map where he wanted the storm to go because he had a political agenda for that region of the Gulf that didn't line up with the storm pattern. What does that tell you? And I'm just so tired of us following stupid and watching bad things happen to good people because they're getting the level of disinformation. And I won't even begin. I mean, you have the officials that are talking about a lot of this information, Nicole and Vaughn, you probably see this out in your coverage. I don't know what the hell y'all doing on X, but it's not helping people. I mean, Elon Musk, you need to chill, bro, because you're getting people seriously injured by propagating and pushing up this BS about, oh, you know, the federal government is failing to serve and help these people. You know that's not true. But you've got a political agenda thinking you're going to be running some cabinet department under Donald Trump and all that crazy. The moment we're in right now is costing lives. And y'all, both Donald Trump and Elon Musk and the governor of Florida, DeSantis, y'all need to stop your stupid, because when someone dies and someone's injured, it's going to largely land on you because you told them to do something dumb like stay in place or ignore the help they're getting.
There's a body of reporting of Trump's indifference to the suffering of his own supporters. I've interviewed a daughter whose father listened to Trump on COVID, and she blames that disinformation on his death. I want to ask you to sort of assemble some of that reporting and some of those specific examples, but I do want to bring into our coverage first WTVJ NBC meteorologist John Morales in South Florida. He's been covering storms there for decades. He's very busy today, but he's made some time to talk to us. What did you see that made you emotional in that clip that I know my colleague Rachel Maddow played last night? I played it today. It's certainly gone viral.
It has, and it was totally unexpected. I kind of wish it hadn't happened, but now that it has, you know, this is an excellent opportunity to just, you know, get the message out about these the extreme and more severe weather events that we're seeing happen with greater frequency. So along those lines, to answer your question, the bulletin, the urgent bulletin from the National Hurricane Center that indicated that the hurricane had become a Category 5 hurricane was sent moments before I was punched up in boxes, as you know what that term means. So I wasn't even looking at the camera. I was looking at this bulletin. I see the information. I'm doing some math in my head, and I turn to the camera and I start to just voice the word incredible over and over again. And then in a very geeky way, much like the nerd that I am, I go 50 millibars in 10 hours. And I just broke down, because 50 millibars in 10 hours, and I know that sounds like difficult science, but just know that a millibar is a way of measuring barometric pressure. The lower the pressure goes in a hurricane and the faster it falls, the quicker the wind wants to accelerate and the stronger the hurricane becomes. So when I saw 50 millibars in 10 hours, I just broke down with a mixture of empathy, angst over these increasing extreme weather events, and also frustration, because for over 20 years I've been trying to communicate on what would be coming if we did not check the injection of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And well, here we are, and it's not going to get any better.
I mean, empathy, angst, and frustration make you my spirit animal. But I wonder, you know, with this moment, what would you, I mean, people do still trust, I'll use your word, the geeky, nerdy science people. What would you like people to know about this storm? And what would you like them to do?
Well, first and foremost, you know, if they live anywhere near the coast and they're being asked to evacuate, they need to follow the authorities' instructions. You know, and you know, I love this country, but this cultural thing of American individualism that we have sometimes gets in the way and sometimes costs lives. You have to sometimes follow the instructions of the experts and sometimes follow the instructions of the authorities that are trying to save your life, for goodness sakes. So people drowned in Hurricane Helene just a couple of weeks ago because they did not listen to the authorities regarding the evacuation orders. So that would be the first thing. I think people in Florida, generally speaking, are taking this event very seriously. And I've seen a lot of preparation. I know there's a lot of people on the road, which is also dangerous. Lots of people trying to get out of harm's way, but this could be the new record-setting hurricane for Florida in terms of property damage. We just set that record 2 years ago with Hurricane Ian, our costliest disaster in history. I wouldn't be surprised if Hurricane Milton becomes the new multi-billion-dollar costliest disaster in a state that has an insurance crisis amongst other, and a climate crisis too, amongst other things.
The climate crisis piece knows no partisan divide in terms of who it kills, whose home it wipes out, whose school it wipes out, whose business it destroys. Why do you think there's still a rather partisan response to doing anything about it?
That's hard to say. It's become part of some people's, not many. But listen, this is a small group. The climate dismissives are less than 10% of the population. Does it get amplified by the politicians? Unfortunately, it's being amplified by the politicians. Why they must feed this beast of climate dismissiveness, I'm going to try to avoid the word denialism, is beyond me, because I think everybody can see what is already happening. The climate crisis is here today. It is not a matter of what's going to happen to the polar bears in the year 2100. It's happening right now. We are seeing the consequences, from the extreme precipitation and flooding to killer heat waves to, yes, stronger typhoons and hurricanes around the planet. So, you know, the sooner we get our heads out of you-know-where and try to act on climate with greater urgency, with solutions that are already there. The solutions are there. We just have to have the will to implement them, and that's what people should demand from the electeds. They need to demand climate action.
John Morales, I know these are busy days. It's a moment that that really got me where I think we all try to broadcast from, right? That it's people that were in danger that really moved you, and the power of this thing you know so well, a storm and that collision. And so to get to talk to you is a privilege. Thank you very much for joining us.